I suggest this time you listen, because nobody wants another war or strike in Syria or anywhere else. Bring our brothers and sisters home. I am truly disgusted that you people are my leaders.
Welcome to the Rage Against the Regime podcast, where the status quo gets taken to task. Call in or text your comments to 256-344-RATR. That's 256-344-7287.
Everybody, welcome back to Rage Against the Regime. I'm your host, Bobby. Who's the man? And today we have a very, very special guest with us, Becky Williams from Texas. She is a hopeful for the governor spot in Texas, and I know that she's going to be giving that jerk of such and such a run for his money. So, without further ado, here's that special interview that I was just telling you about. On with the show!
Today we have a special guest. I actually happened to fall upon this person by being in some of the groups and everything of the Patriots and 3%ers and, and everybody that stands up, for being a Patriot. And, we've talked a few times and everything, and I think she really has a good word that she wants to get out, and this would be the best place to do it. So let's welcome aboard Becky Williams from Texas. Hey! How you doing, Becky?
Hey, I'm doing good, Bobby. Thank you for having me on the show today.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'd like to answer any questions that you might have for me today to the best of my knowledge and ability. I know we've got a lot of chatter out there that we're wanting to either vet or squash. So let's get started.
Well, with you being, I just released a podcast earlier today that I had worked on for a couple days, and it was mostly talking about the open borders and everything. And man, does it really, really piss me off. I mean, with me living in Chicago, we have different issues, with this, with the killings and the murders and everything here. But, we don't really have the problem that you guys have down there. So what do you know that's going on down there?
Well, I have in the midst of my council some active duty, obviously, and some vets. I'm running for the position of governor for the state of Texas, and my platform is to maximize independence and, in effect, secession if we have to. And so I have several councils while making this run, and we have a gentleman who is a friend of one of my council that is actually a Border Patrol active duty, has seen the horror of what's going on down there on the border, and his hands been tied by the federal government. The DHS runs the Border Patrol. And it's unfortunate, but for the last 2 years or possibly even longer, we've had an open border down there where the Border Patrol has been given direction to stand down, basically to assist and not resist. We have people coming through that border from countries all over the world, terrorists, known notorious 1% gangbangers that are coming through there, MS-13. They're working with the drug cartel, and some of the Islamic terrorist groups that are also working with the drug cartel. It's very concerning. Now, to add insult to injury, we have a massive flow of millions who have come through there that are foreign invaders. And then we have the foreign armed invaders. That would be a foreign national that comes across, even if so much as they have a pocket knife in their pocket, that would be considered an armed foreign national invader, which is could be construed as an act of war against Texas and its citizens. I know that we have some open border issues also in California, Arizona, and New Mexico. Anything that borders Mexico right now, they're having issues with, but Texas is being completely inundated with disease and foreign nationals. So here's our problem. When I have a Border Patrol officer telling me that they're very disgruntled and that he feels like he's nothing more than a carpet bag runner for the cartel by opening the gates and turning his eye, we have film to document that this is in fact true. So it's not hearsay. He's not making up stories. They just on national news the other day, I watched a video about being covered by one of the major news stations, wherein they showed dinghies and jet skis and boats crossing over the river without abatement. I mean, they were not, nobody was looking, watching, or bothering them. In the meantime, by way of distraction, we've got more bodies than, and this is a quote, more bodies than we can process coming through in a given day at the border for Border Patrol to assist and bring across. And what is even more disheartening than that is we're finding out that our government is orchestrating it. These kids didn't just show up at our border traveling from Venezuela, at 5 and 6 years of age without a parent or an adult or an escort. They didn't just do that all by themselves. This is very well orchestrated by the regime that has usurped and taken over our government. Now, with that said, we have diseases coming to that border that are not being quarantined that we had eradicated in the U.S., polio being one of them. We've got tuberculosis coming through, measles being one of them. We've got scabies, MERS. MERS comes from the Middle East, in particular around the Saudi Arabian area. And it is a respiratory disease. It attacks the respiratory. It's highly contagious, and there's no known treatment for it. This is very disheartening as well because I just told you where it comes from. So what does that tell you is coming through our border? It affirms, right, that we have foreign invaders that are coming through that border that are coming out of the Middle East. Now, I don't need to tell you how dangerous that is. We all know about the terrorist organizations, Hezbollah, Iran, Al-Qaeda, just to name a few, that are probably making their way through that border. Now, here's where it gets real interesting. What council seat does Obama hold in the UN, which, by the way, is illegal because he sits as president? Do you know?
Yeah, he's not supposed to have any.
Exactly, but do you know what seat he holds?
Well, to my understanding, he's pretty much running the show, isn't he?
Well, he holds a seat for Security Council, okay? Now, what does Security Council do? One of the tasks they would do is they would deploy UN troops in the event of a major disaster or a what? Humanitarian crisis. Wow. Guess what Obama
Unbelievable.
guess what Obama said we have in Texas? A humanitarian crisis that he himself and his thugs have orchestrated on our border. I'll be honest with you, brother. I live in Arlington, Texas. And I have lived here the better part of 25 years. I've moved away and come back, but I've lived here the better part of 25 years. And I went into a grocery store, major chain grocery store here in Texas called Fiesta. And I went to the meat department, and everything was in Spanish. I was one of probably out of maybe 200, 300 in the store. I was one of 4 white Americans in the store. That's all I saw the whole time I was in there. I started looking. I go to my local flea market, and there are thousands it's huge. The flea market here is called Trader's Village. Been going there since I was a kid. And when I go out there, I'm one of maybe out of thousands that are there, maybe 1 out of 200 Texans, real Texans that are from here, the Caucasian ethnicity. Now, I'm not trying to make it a black and white issue. I'm just trying to give you an idea how many Hispanics and how many Muslims and how many foreigners have taken over my city. We're being forced into a situation. Let's just go here. I work in merchant services. I call on small to medium-sized businesses, and I set them up with a merchant account, or I do a takeover on their account to give them better rates. It has gotten to the point where I can't even make a living doing this, and I've been doing it for the most part since 1991. And the reason I can't is because they're mostly foreign nationals. They've been set up in business for free by our government. And when I went to the statistics, they don't want to do business with a white American woman. When I walk into a Muslim business, generally they're very rude to me, even though I may have already set the appointment to come in and speak to them. They want a Muslim to come and do business with them if I have one with the firm that I'm working for or with. And or there's a speech barrier. They're Hispanic or they're Oriental. So this became very disheartening to me. Not only are they owning all the businesses, but they don't want to do business with Americans. They want to do business with people of their own culture. which is very disheartening, because what that says to me is this. For companies in this industry that I work in, they're being forced to employ more so the foreign individuals that have come in to do business with the foreigners who own the businesses. So I start looking, and I go to the .gov site, statistics on small to medium-sized business, and how what the percentage is ownership for immigrants. And this was in January that I took a look. And in January, the last update on that site was for 2012. We're in 2014, so for 2 years it's been ignored. But at that time, it showed that 65% of the small to medium businesses in America are owned by immigrants. That's very alarming. Now it gets better than that. The majority...
That's a huge number. That's huge.
It is huge. Now, the majority of those are Muslims, okay? Now, if you know anything about the Quran and Caliphate and fatwa and many of the other things that are just evil in that book, under Sharia economical law, a Muslim does not pay interest nor taxes on anything. It also says that infidels have the right to nothing, and it is the Muslim's responsibility to take their property, to take over their land, and to kill the infidel. We would be those infidels. So right here in America, we know that Obama, and this is why I went through that whole scenario, we know that Obama has put in position in the DHS, which is over the Border Patrol. They were given jurisdiction to take what happens with Border Patrol. So the DHS has now 7 members of the Muslim Brotherhood who operate and run the department for the DHS. The Border Patrol were given stand-down orders, okay? This is very concerning to me. Now, with that said, with him orchestrating what he's orchestrated, we have seen for the past 3 or 4 weeks here in Texas many sightings that have been posted on Facebook, videos and pictures of UN vehicles being transported within the borders of Texas. Suddenly, after that, Obama claims we have a humanitarian crisis on the border. If that's not enough, they're not quarantining these people. They're putting them on airplanes and buses and trains, and they're shipping them to other states in the USA, unleashing an unbelievable problem. Not only are we being inundated and we're having to assist them, feed them, house them, give them all these benefits that they're given, by the way, when they sign them up, they're signing them up on the other side of the border before they ever come in, and this has been our witness for Obamacare, for phones, for EBT cards, and for housing vouchers, okay? They're giving them every assistance. That, by the way, is a felony according to the Constitution, all right? So imagine how many felonies have been committed right there by our own government against the people of the United States of America. So we really have a mess going on down here. Now, with Obama orchestrating the problem, that gives way and validity to the UN troops, right, on Texas soil. What do you think the next step is? It activates the FEMA camps that are supposed to be conspiracy theory that we know exist. Now the FEMA camps are activated, right, because our bases are full of these foreign nationals that have been ushered into our country, by the way, who are disease-riddled. We have outbreaks on the bases, which now cripples any guard or military assistance that we may be able to exercise in the state of Texas because they're full of civilians. So it essentially is leaving us rendered helpless should something happen down here on the border. Well, it gets a little better than that. We all know that our police departments across the country have been hoarded out by way of federal funding to form a police state against the citizen. MRAPs, they're doing sniper and tactical training that you would only teach your military. And this is fact. This is not conspiracy. These are facts. So now, who's going to protect the people? Who's protecting the citizens of this state? We are being taken over. They're sucking off the tit. And now they're bringing diseases in, deadly gangs, committing crimes on our streets. If that's not enough, he unleashed 35 or 36,000 out of the prison system here of illegals that had a large majority of them had violent crimes that they had committed, from rape to murder to assault to DUI driving while drunk and killing someone. I mean, the list goes on and on. So with that said, we have a governor, Governor Rick Perry. Yeehaw. His job is to make sure that the Texas citizens are protected from foreign invasion, are protected from a declaration of war, an act of war on its citizens, are protected from an influx coming across that border with disease. We're supposed to be protected by our state government. So it's not just the foreign or the federal government that is a problem here. We have an issue with our Texas state government. Now, I'm about to file a writ in the state district court in my county on Rick Perry that's going to force his hand. It's going to force his hand to step up to the plate, and he's going to have to thumb his nose at Washington, and he's going to have to do his job, because at the same time, we're going to put an injunction against federal government that says they cannot intervene with us forcing Perry to do his job, to seal the border, to form a task group, to get these people out of our state and give the citizens of Texas back their land, back their jobs, and their safety. We have over 300 incidents on film and documented of Mexican military coming across that border with weapons in uniform uninvited. Those are all acts of war, and not one are they being addressed. Sir.
Well, you know what? What's the difference between what they're doing and that, what our POW did?
Absolutely.
How come we don't arrest every one of them for coming over here? Oh, we accidentally crossed the border. What's the difference between what you're doing and what he did?
Exactly. Yet he sits in a jail cell over there now for 90 days? He's been in there, something like that. And our government hasn't done squat jack about going over there and getting him out. Nothing. And that gentleman, I've heard people talk about that border that he accidentally crossed over, and those were his weapons. They were registered to him. He was even honest and told them he had weapons. It's forced down to one lane by a concrete barrier, and once you get in it, there's nowhere to turn around and get out. You're going into Mexico whether you like it or not. It was dark. He had his weapons. He was honest with Border Patrol, and he was taken in. He was honest, and he was taken to jail for it.
Well, one thing that's pretty... Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I heard a delay.
Go ahead. Our government's not doing anything, but go ahead, brother.
Well, one thing, it's really scary. It's really scary to think, that the borders are completely wide open like that. I was actually talking to somebody yesterday, just before the podcast that I did, and, they, after I got done doing the podcast, the guy called me up after I released it, and he said, holy cow, man, you had a fit. And I said, absolutely. You know what? It pisses me off that we have all these homeless veterans, okay? Mm-hmm. Tons of homeless veterans that they can't get anything. They can't get no kind of subsidized housing. They can't get anything from the government. And we're going to bring busloads of illegal immigrants over here and give them 5-star service? I got a major problem with that, okay? And then, not to cut you off on anything if you're about to say something, one thing that really, really got me mad just recently, friends of mine just bought a house, okay, in a neighborhood, really nice neighborhood. So they were looking up the school to find out, what kind of school it was, what the rating was and everything else. So the rating wasn't so good. So they went over to the school to talk to the staff to see, hey, maybe somebody just posted something bad about it because they didn't like it or whatever. They walked in, and the people in the school were speaking Spanish. Every one of them. There were Caucasian kids everywhere, and they're being treated like the minority. I have a problem with why, if you come to my country, you better know how to speak English, okay? And don't be here to get a free ride, okay? If they're going to let them over here, which I have a major problem with that, but if they're going to allow it, you better learn the language, and you better not be lazy. You better work for everything you get, because if you're getting welfare and you're getting my tax dollars, I have a major problem with that.
Well, they get federal funding, and here's the best I can try to understand why Rick Perry, Dewhurst, Abbott, and our House and our Congress right here in the state of Texas has been to the feds assisting in this invasion. Federal funds. All the states want federal funding. They're on the tit of the government, and it's to me it's a source of extortion and bribery. To put my safety in jeopardy, my health, my well-being, my very life in jeopardy by what's gone on that border and what is continuing to go on that border for federal funds for these, and you can't call them illegal immigrants. That's an oxymoron. Illegal implies that they've broken the law, but immigrant implies that we've allowed it. And I, for one, have not allowed it, and I'm outraged about it. So I call them what they are, and as it should be stated in legal terms, it's called a foreign national invader. They're invading my country, they're invading my state, and they are receiving every benefit that Americans cannot get. Let me give you something that's really going to anger you. Since you're already pissed off, I'm just going to go there, because I'm angry about the vets, too. Two things. I have a buddy who's a veteran. He lives right here in Dallas. Takes him months to get into the VA. He goes in. He's got some problems. He has his prostate checked, and they never call him back, not once. And 9 months later, he's still having problems. He finally gets into a general practitioner at the VA, and he wants to know what they're doing to treat his prostate cancer. He can't find the doctor that's treating him and what kind of treatment. Can you imagine how blown away this vet was? Imagine that. Wow. Now, it gets better than that. We know right now that there is not going to be any charges filed against those folks that we know have committed these heinous acts against our veterans by the VA administration. It was announced, I think, 2 days ago that there's not going to be any charges filed, and we've had many of them die. Now, outside of that, now they're homeless. Now they want to take the weapons away from all the veterans because, why? They're using PTSD as the premise to do that. They're not mentally stable. Well, I got news for the government. Everybody, almost everybody in this country suffers from some form of PTSD by trauma or tragedy that's occurred in their life, whether they were raped, beaten, assaulted, bullied, picked on, family issues, loss of a spouse or a child. Those are all forms of post-traumatic syndrome, okay? They're doing it because they know that those young men and women and veterans are trained to battle, to fight. Now, what a better way for the government, this communist, socialistic, Cloward-Piven, riddled usurpation that we have in our government, what a better way for them to go ahead and finish taking this nation to the dirt if we can't fight, because we have the largest standing army in the entire world. Every bubba that goes hunting has a couple of guns and knows how to use them, knows how to clean them, probably knows how to load their own ammunition. You know, if they don't, there's a large majority that does, and they've made it difficult for us to get the supplies to pack our own loads. They're doing it on purpose. Now they're invading us. Now, Sharia Mortgage, have you ever heard of that?
No.
Sharia Mortgage is the largest growing mortgage company in the USA today. Now, that ought to just scare the hell out of you, because Sharia Mortgage is exactly what it is. Sharia, Islam, Muslim. And it's backed by HSBC. It gets deeper. Okay, now we're talking about Chase. Chase, because I'm in banking, Chase was the largest houser for every transaction in the banking institution in the world. Okay, anytime somebody slid their card, there's a housing process when you purchase something, whether it's your bank card or a credit card, whatever it may be, if it's an electronic transaction. Chase is no longer the monster. It's now HSBC. HSBC backs Sharia Mortgage. How many bankers from Chase Manhattan Bank have we had die in the last 2 years? It's upwards in the 20s. They jumped off buildings. They hung themselves. Bull cocky. Now, before the Sandy Hook incident, there was a big deal about the LIBOR trial. And the reason there was, J.P. Morgan was named in the LIBOR, the investigation, because they collapsed Freddie and Fannie, Freddie Mae and Fannie Mac mortgage. No, it gets a little better than that. And I'm just giving you bits and pieces of what I know to be fact research that I've done. It gets a little bigger than that. One of the first acts that Obama committed of treason when he got in office is he gave a big bailout to GM. And when he gave the bailout to GM, it was under the premise that the government now had ownership in GM, which is against the law. It states the government cannot have any ownership by way of buyout or otherwise in any industry in the USA. So that was one of his first acts. It was, in fact, his second act. His first act was to give the Winston Churchill bus back to England that sat in the White House. Now, I have reasons why I think he did that. It was the big FU, the finger to England, because he is Islam. He is a foreigner sitting in the seat for president of the United States. He was placed there by way of Pelosi. He knew he wasn't legal. We're going to get her on usurpation, and that'll be handled through the Hague Criminal Court, because she is the one who got him on the petition as a viable candidate, legal candidate to run for president. But anyway, let's go back to the way we're being taken over. So it's not just the Mexican nationals. It is people coming in through that gate from all over the world, but we are in deep poo-poo here. I'm talking about serious trouble. Islam is very real and alive in America. We're under a caliphate. If you don't know what that word means, please look it up. I've been doing a whole lot of homework for the last 2 years. This is why I'm running for governor of Texas, to maximize the independence of Texas. Our governments have been hoarded out. If we want to take that monster apart in Washington, we have to start in our states. We have to know who our constitutional sheriffs are. We have to know who's on board with us and who's not. That's the supreme law of the land. You need to start checking into any risks you can file against your governors to force their hand to do their duty, which is what I'm doing. The problem is that you have an attorney general in your state that will put well the law. The writ that I'm about to file against Perry and the district court here, Greg Abbott is more than aware of that particular law. Dave Dewhurst is more than aware of that particular law. And I'm calling them out by name because they're all in it. Anytime you turn your head and you aid in a bed tyranny, you then are guilty of treason. As far as I'm concerned, every member of Congress, I don't care who you think is good in there or who's not good in there, every member of Congress, every member of the Supreme Court Justice, the Sergeant of Arms, anybody who had authority to remove the tyranny before we got to this point where he is trying to completely destroy America is guilty of tyranny and treason. Sorry, that's the law. That's how it's written. Now, with that said, start in your state. Get busy in your states knowing your declaration, or not your declaration, but your Constitution and your Bill of Rights. Understand how government is supposed to work. They're an employee to us, elected. They work for us, or they're supposed to. But most people don't know that. Most people don't know that they have their own documents for their own states. We are all a sovereign country within the state. We were incorporated by England 12 years after the Revolution. They came in and they bought out the debt for the Revolutionary War from France and Spain. There's a whole bunch of people that don't know that. That's why we're called the United States of America. We are owned under parliamentary rule by England still today, 200 and some odd years later, for that debt. And in the Articles of Incorporation, it states that all property, industry, and the people are subject to the king. Subject. It's very important that you understand the verbiage. Subject means they own us. Slavery. And that's where the Federal Reserve came in. That's when they started taxing the crap out of it, where they're slaves. But it's time for us to rise up and take our independence back. And right here in Texas, we're going to maximize our independence. I'm running. I'm going to go after Perry for what he's doing on the border. I'm going to force his hand legally to do what he's supposed to do to defend and protect us. And I want my state back.
Well, I think he's got one big fight on his hand. That's for damn sure.
Well, he does, because we're in a dire situation down here. Do you know why the militia groups are coming down here on this border from other states? For the reasons I just gave you. Number one, they're angry. Number two, their states are being, these people are being shipped out to their state with disease. They're taking over their state, and they're angry. They're coming in from all over the world now just because, blah, blah, change the rules of engagement and change the definition of terrorism does not change the existence of truth. We know who the terrorists are. We know who want to kill us. And we know they're sitting up there in Washington. We know that wars are propagated by them and the fat cats around the world. They create wars to fatten their pockets. It serves a dual purpose. It's also population control. They arm the enemy and they send our soldiers into battle to fight against them and die. They overthrow governments. Egypt, for example. Did you know that the military in Egypt filed against Obama for murder and crimes against humanity and for some other charges in Egypt because he spent millions and helped put Morsi in government over there, which is the Muslim Brotherhood. And then the people got pissed off and took it back. But in the midst of that, when Morsi came in, they killed a bunch of Coptic Christians, burned the churches and murdered them, raped them, beat them, beheaded them, shot them. Obama helped them do that.
Yeah, I saw something about that the other day.
This is how he does things. And I'll tell you something. He has effectively had his hand in so many big events and things that have happened around this world. And you know what he does? He works us like dogs, packs us to death. The prices in the grocery stores are so high we can barely eat. Meanwhile, these foreign invaders come over here and they get free food, EBT cards, when we're out here busting our chops. And at the end of the day, we have a whole lot of folks out here that can't make it from paycheck to paycheck after they fill up their gas tank, pay their bills, and feed their families. We spin the wheel. They've increased the taxes, the inheritance tax. I think he brought it up this last year to 69%. He's imposed Obamacare on us, which is an unconstitutional imposed tax. If you don't sign up and you don't have private insurance, you get at tax time you're going to get hit with a $600 and I think it's $90-something fine or tax. Meanwhile, they come across here and they get theirs free. You know, I don't know how much you pay for your insurance, but for us to have insurance, it's about $250 a month.
Well, I'm in the highest tax bracket in the nation. So, believe you me, I think right now we're at 10.5% tax.
Jeez.
And on any drink that you buy, you have to pay a 5-cent tax on every can, bottle, whatever. If it's water, energy drink, soda, whatever, it's 5 cents per bottle or can. I actually wanted to ask you, Becky, if you heard anything about this North American treaty that they're talking about, open borders for Canada, the United States, and Mexico.
Yes, and this has been going on for years. They want to make it a one-world government. In order to do that, they're going to have to merge these continents together, or these governments and countries together. So it's part of the takeover. And if I could stand corrected, I can't remember if it was actually the Bushes that started pushing this, or if it was actually Clinton. But this has been going on for a while. Obama's just Obama is the finisher of the dirty deed, if he can get it done. There was a super highway and a super train railway also that they're trying to create, and the bids have gone out to nothing but foreign countries. I think it was Japan or China, one of those, won the bid on those two projects, wherein it would take you all the way from Mexico up to Canada and all the way from Florida up to Canada, one being a railway and one being a super highway, where you could actually transport is what they're using it for, import-export transport excuses and easy travel for business folks. But we all know what it is. Things aren't always as they seem, my grandmother would tell you. You need to look very deep at what's going on, the events that have taken us to this position. But, yeah, I've heard a bit about it.
Well, you know, the funny thing about that, though, is a lot of people can't get into Canada. Now, Canada does not let convicted felons or, anybody that has had any kind of charges or anything against them. So I wonder how that's all going to play out in the end.
I don't know. That's real interesting because they have given harbor to terrorists from Islam for many, many years in Canada. Isn't that interesting? You want me to tell you something that's real funny? We're talking about borders. Do you know, year before last, when Obama pulled his BS sequester, we're broke, we can't America can't pay their bills, the government, we can't pay this, and we can't, but he continued to keep his $1.7 billion average a year vacation. I think he had like 9 that year, but we couldn't pay our bills, and that's on our dollar, by the way. So this who, by the way, is not black as well. We've done some investigating on this thief, this usurper that's in our office in the White House. And he's from the House of Saudi. The reason that they used the black man in the White House is because they had already created for over 50 years a civil problem between blacks and whites. The poor blacks, they've been oppressed, when they've been given everything that can possibly be given to them since the 60s. I mean, for God's sake, it's 2014. I'm sorry your great-great-great-great-grandfather was a slave, but more than likely so was my great-great-great-great relatives, and I'm a quarter Indian, and if you want to talk about atrocities, well, we can go there too with that one. But anyway, that's why they use the smoking gun with the Kenyan thing, and, the birth certificate has been proven to be fake. We know that's not his birth certificate and passports, and we know that he went to Pakistan, when you could not travel on an American passport into Pakistan at the time that he was visiting there. So it just goes on and on. But anyway, when he pulled this sequester a couple of years ago, Congress and Obama, we were in dire straits, we're going to collapse, we're bankrupt, we're broke, blah, blah, blah. Did you know that I looked on the website, the .gov website, because I wanted to see how it was affecting different agencies. And did you know that for 6 weeks we had no Border Patrol whatsoever on the Canadian border? It was wide open for anybody to come in.
That I did not know.
Oh, yeah, because I like to do a little research. I like to dig. I need to know what I'm talking about when I talk about it. So I went on the .gov site, and I looked at the sequester program, and I wanted to see who was getting cut, who had their funds cut, what was going on. What the real story was. And, yeah, we pulled the Border Patrol from Canada for 6 weeks. Interesting, don't you think? And that was right after they stopped 2 terrorists from the Middle East coming across there with a bunch of IED stuff in the trunk of their car. Mm-hmm.
Well, he just said the other day that borders are inhumane. That's the reason why he doesn't want to have the borders. Are you kidding me? Inhumane? What?
So here's
unbelievable.
Here's a guy who comes in, takes over our White House, changes the rules of engagement, changes the definition of terrorism, removes all of it from the handbooks for training for the military, local police departments. I bet you didn't know that. FBI and the Army and Air Force and Naval and Marine and Guard military guys. So he's changed the rules of engagement. We've got soldiers who are serving 20 years or more in Leavenworth in the prison because they killed a terrorist that they had in their possession. One in particular was in their possession, and he attacked the others while they had him in custody, transporting him. And a soldier had to shoot and kill this guy, and he got prison time for it. I mean, how ridiculous is that? We're in the Middle East, for God's sake. We're in war. And this guy goes to jail for it. I mean, we've got soldiers sitting up there for killing a known terrorist that they had taken into custody. So, with that said, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to force the hand of Perry. That's what we're going to do. And the writ that I'm going to file, after I file that writ, I'm going to find out any charge I can bring against the government in the state of Texas for not doing their duty, understanding that that is in place and that he had to comply with it. I can't give you the details because when we file this, which will be we were hoping to have it done by yesterday, but my legal counsel has failed miserably and has not been on the ball to get my documents drawn up. But when I file, then I'm going to release that filing to every news station and channel across America and internationally to let them know, because this is an international news story right now of what's going on that border in Texas in particular. And all of America is going to find out the truth, because then I'm going to be able to disclose what I can't disclose today, what the writ is, what it contains, and how it's going to force his hand. And then I'm going to go after the Attorney General because he's well aware of it, and he's aided and abetted Perry in this little dastardly deed, and I'm going to go after the rest of them. And then I'm gonna make my public announcement that I'm running for governor. I've been doing it underground so that we can get support out of all 50 states from patriots, and we have, as well as out of Canada, Brazil, Australia, and England. The reason they support me and they help us to campaign for me underground and through social networking is because what they do in Washington affects the entire globe, and they're affecting their country. They're being overrun by Islam with the assistance of Obama. They're being overrun and overtaken economically because we're a very powerful nation. Everything that happens to America, as far as economics, it affects people around the globe. So we have a ripple effect on the world. And this is the first time in history anybody running for the governor's seat in a state has had support out of state from patriots who cannot vote in that state. This is the first time in history that someone who's running for a seat of governorship in a state has been supported by other countries, citizens, not the country themselves. Let me specify, these are citizens. I'm not saying I have those governments backing me. I have citizens backing me. And this is why they're backing us, because we are setting the pace. We have to stop them. But before we can stop them, guys, if you're pissed off about what's going on in your state and these people are being shipped in and they have diseases, people with compromised immune systems, children, babies, infants, elderly, we're all at risk. And this could be a death sentence for many of them. Now, think about this logistically, brother. Do you know where they're shipping the majority of these people? Around the border states of the United States of America. Wow, what a strategic move. They're surrounding us with it. Not so much in Central, but the surrounding states. Massachusetts, Maryland, New Jersey, Florida, Virginia, the southern border states, Arizona, New Mexico. If they don't already have a problem with their own border, now they're going to go ahead and ship some more in. It's come across in Texas, California. Don't you find that interesting?
Well, look what was going on in Arizona not too long ago. They blew up the power stations or tried to. Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Hello? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we got disconnected. Yeah, they blew up. Oh, okay. They blew up the power stations in Nogales, and that was really the beginning to the whole thing. That's when the whole border movement started happening, is when they started doing the explosions and, blowing up the power stations and everything. You were touching. Go ahead. No, I was going to say, you were touching on something a minute ago that really, it got me thinking, about Obama and stuff. One thing that really, really pisses me off about him is he does not salute the Marines or anybody in the military before he gets on Marine One or Air Force One. He will not salute none of them. He came out and shook one guy's hand one time instead of saluting him. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I saw that. You know what else pisses me off about that is he's no commander-in-chief, period. Here's a guy who was a community organizer at best. We found out that, the professorship that he held was nothing more than an assistant. He wasn't a professor. He lost his law license due to an illegality. His wife as well for fraud and some other things. And it's real interesting that he's been in office for 6 years and his net worth went from $1.7 million. How he accrued that, I'll never know. From $1.7 million to now he's worth probably much more than they're stating, but they're saying he's worth like $40-something million. How the hell do you do that unless you're doing underhanded, dirty deeds?
One question that I have is how come nobody in the military, nobody that's in politics or anything, did anything to try to stop him? They've all seen this coming.
Well, because he purged our military of anybody that was patriotic that would buck up against him. He's removed more high-ranking officials in the military than combined by all the other presidents that have ever sat in that seat. More. You hear me? And he did it before his second term.
Right.
Like 20-some-odd high-ranking officials that he removed from our military branches. Then he made it punishable by court-martial for them to have a Bible or a cross or say anything about God, but he lets them promote Islam and lets them have prayers, prayer robes. Really?
The Muslim Brotherhood. Well, you know who I love watching? Trey Gowdy. Man, yeah. I just hope that he has something to do with the impeachment of him, because you know what? He's really, really pushing the buttons real hard right now. And I love it.
Well, you know, if we do impeachment, here's what we have. Okay, he's guilty of treason. If we give him a charge of treason and we remove him for treason, we validate his eligibility. We all know he's ineligible. And we all know that treason carries a death penalty unless Congress chooses to give them a prison sentence. Well, Congress is guilty of misprism because they evaded and abetted the tyranny and haven't removed him. So that negates the prison term. Now the common law jury in court will be the deciding benefactor on what the punishment will be. And I can assure you nobody wants to feed him another lobster tail or put him in a prison. They're pretty pissed off about the money he spent while our vets die and can't be treated, and Americans are mistreated, and a white American can't go to the SBA and get a loan without having great credit, 50% collateral, and there's no special programs for the white American with the SBA whatsoever, but every other individual and ethnicity is listed there as special programs to start a business. So we have a lot of things going on here, and people are pissed off about it. Now, again, I'm not trying to make this a race thing. This is just reality. This is the reality. You know, we have a Muslim setting up in a conference that I read about, a female who said that the white race should be completely erased, you know, and nothing said about it. And this is someone who holds clout in the political arena, and they go out and announce that. The DOJ incite black-on-white crime because of the, what was that punk's name down in Florida that got killed by Zimmerman. You know, the DOJ incited those riots, and the Black Panthers, they brought them in to incite those riots. And now what we don't see in America is the propagated hatred that Obama has brought to the table for being the first black man and president of the United States of America. Well, first of all, he's not black, he's Middle Eastern. But they use that because there's been such a division that the government has used to sway votes and to corrupt the minds of the people and to strip away the morals and moral principles of the youth. And it's sad because they have targeted the black people. They have suffered the most damage by way of loss of morals and moral fortitude and the ability to coexist in society with everybody else. Now they feel they're justified in their homicides, but what they're not covering is black-on-white crime increases and how many are being killed in the knockout game and just beating them because it's white, you know, let's kill white. And it's been propagated by our government. Since he sat in office, it's been blatantly propagated by the government. So we have a problem here. You know what's one of the things I'm going to do, Bobby, whenever I take the seat for governor for the new republic? One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to erase the minority button. You know how I'm going to do that? Our documents for this state say that all men are created equal. Well, if we're all created equal, then by God, let's level the playing field. I don't care if you're gay, straight, white, black, green, or yellow. We're all created equal. We're going to get rid of those special interest groups that propagate hate, those lobbyists that come in and do the same thing on the floor in Congress. We're going to get rid of all that madness. You know why? Because that's part of the problem. That's where the corruption comes in. If we're all created equal,
Absolutely.
Then we're all equal. And if we get rid of that minority button and get rid of those special interest groups, we're going to stop having the hatred among us. Whitey's going to quit being pissed off because the black population is getting the Negro college fund and the this and the that. And if we had a white college fund, it would be a racist thing. We're going to get rid of that because that is all designed to continue to cause hatred in the hearts of Americans. And we're not going to do that anymore. Let's just get rid of that minority button. Let's just get along. You're going to be treated as a human being the same as someone else. You're not going to have special financing and programming or programs for your ethnicity. You're not going to have special way into college based on your color or if you're gay or whatever. We're not going to do that. Stop the madness. It creates hatred. People kill each other on the street. They beat each other in the street. It's a problem. It causes crime. It causes loss of life. And it causes hatred, which steals them from God. You know, we're not supposed to hate people. I want to give this land back to God. I want to give this country back to God. we have been so separated, you know, from lyrics and music to contents in movies and violent. Oh, my God. Have you ever watched the video games these kids play today? It is so graphically violent. It's programming. They've done that on purpose. It desensitizes our children. I want to get the C-scope out of the schools. The Common Core is a UN-based program. It's implemented globally. And our government is allowed that so that they can dumb us down. They're teaching the 5 pillars of Islam in the history book. They've got 36 pages dedicated saying that there's no other God but Allah. But my kids can't pray over their meal in school or read their Bible in free time. I got problems with that. We're going to remove that. We're going to remove it. Get rid of it. We're not going to strike God down out of the hearts of the children or out of school and give way to an evil entity to come in and brainwash our kids. This is where our problem is. And now the biggest factor that we have concerning the border is fear. Fear is going to shift the tide. It's either going to make people, it's going to put them in a position to not react by fear of the government or the policing from these rogue police departments that we have out here, or it's going to force the hand out of rage that comes when you're tired of being afraid. And it's going to force the hand for somebody to get out here and get stupid and pop off a round or two, take 1 or 2 of these immigrants out. That's what they call them. They're not immigrants, they're foreign invaders, you know, because they feel threatened by them on the border or they're just tired of it. And then we're going to have an international incident. They're going to swarm in on us. We're going to have martial law, and we're going to be in deep doo-doo. Now, I would like to address this. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's coming. Martial law is coming. I mean, anybody that doesn't believe it, open your eyes.
And here's the problem, brother. You know, people are coming from all over the different states. They're coming to Texas. I can't tell you how many phone calls I get a day, and they already refer to me as governor. This is how it'll go. Hey, governor, how are you today? You know, hey, governor, it's blah, blah. Well, first, I don't hold that seat. Let me be clear. I do not. And I'm honored that you guys already see me as a leader and you're behind me 100% and you have full faith that I'm going to take this seat and I'm going to maximize independence in Texas. But with that said, I cannot give the order. They ask me, this is what they say, do you want us to come down there? I can't give that order. That's going to put me in a federal penitentiary, that I'm forming a military or inciting violence, causing a war. There's a number of charges they can bring on me. I can't tell you to come or not come. You have to make that call. But what I can tell you is if you're coming down invited by a landowner on the border, you're under the castle law of your personal security. Don't come down here and call yourself a militia because you're not registered with the state of Texas. You're not a resident of the state of Texas. It's going to get you in trouble. You're looking at possible federal charge. Please be careful. Know what the laws are. Know what the regulations are. If you don't know what they are, call your local government or call Texas. Call and speak to the governor's office and ask them what the rules and guidelines are about you coming across the border with a weapon into the border of the state of Texas. I appreciate your help. I can't give you an answer as to whether you should come or stay, but I do appreciate the fact that you guys around this country are willing to help us out because we are in a whole lot of trouble down here in Texas. And the news media won't cover it. Border Patrol has been threatened if they speak of it. We're in a bad situation. So I'm going to appeal to any lawyers that are patriots out there. I need some pro bono work done on this writ so I can get it filed. If you hear me on this call or you know someone who is a patriot and a lawyer that's willing to do a pro bono for me, have them contact me on Facebook or go through Bobby and get a hold of me. We need to get this writ in the courts as soon as possible because there is a process to get it served. And that takes time, and I think we're running out of time down here. I've created a page on Facebook called the Republic of Texas Bar Association. That's an invitation to anybody that holds a law degree, political science degree. We want to talk to you. I need you on my council. Don't miss this opportunity to make history. We're about to change things in America, and it'll be in the history books, I assure you. But we're going to do it in a legal and lawful manner. Nobody wants to see bloodshed, and just because they're lawless doesn't mean we're going to bend and break to lawlessness. We're going to try to do this right. War should always be the absolute last resort for a resolution of any issue.
Now, you know, it's kind of funny that you bring that up about everything that that's going on with all that. Now, the UN. See, I'm not so much worried when we talk about martial law. I mean, I'm worried about all the people that are moving in that direction, because that the president has his little I guess you could say posse going. Like he said that he wanted to make his own little army, I guess you could say. But what do you think's going on? What do you think's going on with all these UN trucks?
Well, I know
a ton of UN vehicles.
See, here's the deal. Remember what I said. He holds a seat. The council seat he holds in the UN is security. They deploy UN troops in the event of a humanitarian or a disaster crisis all over the globe. He creates and orchestrates this issue on the border. It's what he gets to do as president. He gets to call it a humanitarian crisis because it's within the borders of the United States. Now, guess what he gets to do as the council chairman? Oh, he gets to call in the UN troops. That's why you're seeing him everywhere, brother. Now it gets better than that. He's sending these diseased people out without quarantine into the country. Now guess who gets involved? The Center for Disease Control. That's coming. Now guess what happens when we have a problem and we've got an outbreak of deadly diseases in America? They start coming out and checking everybody, and guess what the FEMA camps are going to be? Quarantine.
FEMA camps.
Yes, sir.
All it's going to be.
Quarantine facilities is the premise they're going to use it for, I guarantee you.
Come running over here. Oh, you need my help? Here, we're ready to help you. Come in here. We'll help you in this room right here. Come to our FEMA camp. Unbelievable.
You're exactly right. Now you got the big picture. Now you understand how much trouble we're in. I have got zero time on my side right now to stop Governor Perry and the federal government, the DHS, and the Mexican government who's involved in this as much as anybody else is from doing any more damage than they've done. We're almost at a point of no return. That's where we are. I live in Little Mexico, and the part of my city that's not Little Mexico is definitely turned into Africa or the Middle East. And when I say Africa, I'm talking these people are coming over from Somalia, some of the other countries over there in Africa. We have a lot of Somalians right here in Dallas, Fort Worth area, a ton. Guess who they love to worship for the most part? I've got 13 mosques in the city of Arlington. Houston has over 60.
Wow.
Does that say anything to you?
Wow. Yeah, a ton. Well, a lot of people think that I'm nuts. Okay.
Pardon?
No, I was going to tell you, a lot of people think that I'm nuts, and I'm going to tell you why. And I want to get your input on this. I don't think that anybody's ever voted for, period. I don't think not one vote is tallied or counted or anything. I think that they tell the people that they get to vote, and that's their way of thinking, making people think that they have a voice in something, and that their votes count, and, vote for this person, vote for that person. I think right now they know who the next president of the United States is going to be. I think they already know it. I think Bilderberg has a lot to do with it. I'm serious. Yep.
Absolutely. Let me tell you how voting works. In the states, it's tallied by majority vote. That's who takes the seat for whatever position they're running for. In the presidential and vice presidential elections, this is how it works. The president picks his vice president, but the president is seated by electoral. The electoral vote is delegates from certain states, not all states, certain states have delegates that form the electoral commission. That electoral vote is cast for the president. It's supposed to be based on the majority votes of the citizens in their area. Okay, that's not how it works. Now, if you want to hear something more disheartening, all you listeners out there, why don't y'all go look who George Soros is? Look it up. He's an economic terrorist. He's a Nazi, communist, pig. He was the reason the Bank of Scotland collapsed. In 1966, he made a statement that he would take America down economically. Guess what? George Soros has pumped millions of dollars, not billions, millions, into calling for a convention for Article 5, which means that they can completely destroy the American Constitution, the federal Constitution, and rewrite it. anytime you draw a convention to add an article, you are in serious position to have every right stripped away. In other words, the Second Amendment can be taken out, the First Amendment can be taken out, the Fourth, the Fifth. Anything that is for the people can be removed completely forever. Now, why is George Soros pushing for an article that's supposed to be for the people, but he's pumping millions of dollars into that convention? That's why. Now it gets even better than that. He has complete control and interest in all the voting machines in America today as of last year. By all the interest. He's a multi-billionaire. This guy's a very powerful man. He is a dog. He is one of the devil's minions, and he is Mr. Obama's godfather.
Oh, absolutely. That's his butt buddy.
How'd you talk in his back? I'll tell you something even more so than that. He has controlling interest of the prison systems because it is a money mule in the country. He is the godfather over the prison systems by way of ownership. Everybody that's in there is $1 to him. There's a dollar amount on it. Federal funding goes to the state to run prisons that are a private entity, and it just goes on and on and on and on. You cannot imagine the corruption and the crap that I found out. UNESCO is mother of Common Core. Look it up. It's implemented by the UN. That's why our children are being dumbed down. It was implemented first in, I think it was 1950 into the school system, and they've graduated it in its ignorance and dumbing us down. This is why most people don't know they have a Declaration of Independence in the state of Texas. We know that. They don't know the difference, though, between yelling about we have a Constitution when you need to be using your state documents when you make that statement, not federal. In the 1800s, I think it was 1858, there was a court case in the Supreme Court that ruled the decimated new second Constitution that had been ratified to death actually served the purpose of government, not the people. So we are governed rather than being the government and have an employee or set seats that were elected to govern the country as the people want to be governed. They have controlled and governed us. They don't teach us that in school. They don't teach you anything about. I had to take one semester of government to get out of high school. One semester to get my credits to get out of high school. I had to have one semester of government. I don't even know if they still teach government in high school. But they don't want to.
That's one thing I was just going to bring up. Constitution, you used to have to pass the Constitution test to be able to get your high school diploma here in Illinois. I don't even think that they even have that anymore. I think they did away with it.
Yeah, most kids don't even know they have a state document. You'd be surprised how many I go, did you know that every state has a Constitution and every state has a Bill of Rights? No way. Yes, they do. And then they don't even know what that function is for those documents, what purpose they serve. All they've heard about is the Declaration of Independence that came in 1776, was our July 4th. And, they don't know. They have no idea. They have no idea. Because why? Because they have not been taught. And that's been done to them on purpose. You know what I think? I think anybody that goes to a voting booth that doesn't know how government operates or doesn't know the first thing about the state documents or even the federal documents, if you've not read it all the way through and understand what it says, I don't think you should be able to vote. You know why? Because you're an idiot. That's like giving a 2-year-old a gun with bullets and praying to God they don't shoot somebody in the room.
It shouldn't be a right. It should be a privilege.
Yeah, you can. And I'll tell you something else that we're going to do in the state of Texas. I'm going to require an ongoing education program if anybody holds office. It's going to be a requirement. You know why? Because I need to know that they understand what their position is in government. There will be term limits set. I need to know that you know your position in government and that you work for the people. They don't kneel to you. You shouldn't hold an office if you go in there thinking you're all God and mighty and powerful. You go in there and you be humble and understand that they have enough faith in you that they voted you in because they think that you're a person of good judgment, that you're a patriot. I don't think anybody should hold office. I don't. If they do not know how law functions, because you're going to sign a contract that says that if you breach that, if you take advantage of the people in position of law, that you're going to get a jail term, and it's not going to be a nice one.
Nope.
but I don't think anybody should vote without being required. I don't think you should be able to get your voter's registration by going in and just signing up for it. I think you ought to have to fill out a document that has some questions on there about what you think government's supposed to be operated by, whom, and some of the functions of government, and if you're aware of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights in your state. I think it should be a requirement. I'm not saying they shouldn't be able to vote. I'm just saying don't give a loaded gun to a child. Don't let an idiot vote another idiot in office, is my point.
I agree. It shouldn't be a right. It should be a privilege.
Absolutely. You know, in our documents, it says that lunatics can't vote. I laughed so hard when I read that in the Texas state document. It said lunatics and some, how was it worded? Lunatics and idiots. That's what it said. Cannot vote. And all I could do was laugh the first time I read that, and I thought, wow, how did they discern that? I'm sorry, sir, I think you're an idiot. You can't vote. You know? Well, you look like a lunatic. You know? No,
wow.
You're a lunatic. You know? Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Wow.
It was comical to me. But, you know, as much as it was comical, think about the lunatics and idiots that go out there and stand and vote, the ones that voted 5 or 6 times for this pig and thief we have in government, you know?
It's scary.
Absolutely, you know. So I have issues with that. But we're in trouble down here in Texas, brother, and I know that you guys all around the country are being affected by it, and I want you to know that I'm doing everything I possibly can to deliver a throat punch legally that is going to force them into real submission according to law to do the job that they've been given to do. It is a position that they hold, and it is an obligation and duty that they've neglected to do. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see what I can do to make things happen down here without a revolution.
Well, we're definitely going to be, you know, right behind you and doing whatever we can to help you. That's for sure.
God bless you.
So anytime.
I appreciate that. I do.
Well, anytime you want to come on my show and talk about it, I mean, you got an open forum here. I enjoy talking to you.
I appreciate it. I'm about to go on with Miss Dita, so I'm going to have to cut this off and get prepared for my next show. I've got one at 8 o'clock, and you'll be hearing a whole lot of me. Watch national news because I'm about to go public in a huge way. We're going to call this earned media. I'm going to get a dual purpose out of what I'm about to do, and I'm going to make a whole lot of people angry when I do it, but, you know, it has to be done.
Well, why don't you give everybody any contact information you want to give them, like Facebook pages or, you know, anywhere that they can reach you?
Absolutely. I'm Becky Governor Williams. You can find me on Facebook. I'll be happy to add you. Look me up. For any counsel out there that can assist us legally and would like to join our legal counsel in the event of the collapse of the dollar for the new republic, which, by the way, projection is July 1. I didn't know if you were aware of that or not. The world analysts are saying our dollar is going to go flat on July 1. So enjoy your weekend, party like a rock star, and pray to God it doesn't happen.
All righty. Thanks for joining us.
All right. God bless you, brother. I appreciate you having me on your show, and you keep safe. If you need me, holler at me.
I would like to thank Becky Williams for joining us tonight. Very, very insightful. Tons of information, things, you know, that we didn't know that were going on down at the border and a lot that's going on in Texas. You know, with Becky being a governor hopeful for the state of Texas, I mean, she has to know a lot about the law and know a lot about what's going on in her own state. I mean, in some of the stories that she's told, you know, and some of the information that she gave us, I mean, isn't it dreadful? Look what's going on, you know, in states like that, border towns and everything. I mean, it's really, really sad, you know, that people that live in these areas are the ones that have to worry the most about, you know, disease spreaders and stuff like that are coming through and coming to the borders. And like she even talked about, you know, the kids. The kids are the ones that really, really have to worry the most, and the parents of the kids, because, you know, these other kids that are being brought in and being brought over the borders, I mean, you know, you just don't know what you're getting. And it really, really is a shame. Now, another thing that I would like to get to right now and talk a little bit about, it seems like Congress is starting to make some moves to, you know, to shut down Obama. they have been doing overwhelming majority votes to vote against him on a lot of different things that have been being brought towards them. And, I know that this is very, very minute little wins that we're getting here and there, but eventually maybe something big will come out of it. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to say, well, that really isn't what the problem is. It has something to do a lot more with, the elite, the rich elite and stuff like that. And as long as they have money, I guess that this world's never really going to change. Our country's really never going to change. I mean, they're prepared for a major disaster, and the epidemic and stuff like that. Do you think those type of people have to worry about, the disease spreaders and stuff like that? No, they don't have to, because they're never going to be around anything like that. Okay, they damn well make sure of that. Oh man, it just irks me, because what does our future really have to look forward to? And if you think about everything that is going on right now, what do your kids, grandkids, whatever, what do they have to look forward to in the future? A police state, a government that's very corrupt, and, nothing looks bright. It really doesn't. Nothing looks bright. I just hope something can be done about it, and I hope some changes are coming. But, it really, really, really doesn't look good for us at all. Well, that's the show for the day, and I hope that you guys all enjoyed it. As I said, having Becky on, it was very, very insightful and knowledgeable, and I would really like to thank her again. But I would like to thank you all for listening, and please keep coming back. I mean, I want to grow this show. I want to make it as best as possible, and I want to make it very insightful, and I want it to be enjoyable, and I want you guys all to enjoy it and enjoy the interviews and everything. One thing that I would like to ask everybody right now, I have a link that we've been putting on the page for Spreaker, and that's one of the places that we broadcast. We broadcast on like six different outlets right now, but the Spreaker page is the one that's going to put us over the top, and that will get us on iHeartRadio and stuff. So if you guys would be kind enough, all I need is 100 likes on the Spreaker page, and if I can get 100 likes, they're going to put me on iHeartRadio. So never know. Until next time, I'm Bobby, who's the man, and you've been listening to Rage Against the Regime.
Rage Against the Regime.